Hey guys, Christian Duke from StrengthAddicts.com. I was at the gas station just now. Gas was $3.34, and I was waiting at the pump for about 15 minutes. And when the person that was pumping your gas that I was waiting for was pulling out, a man pulled in a pickup truck. I'm like, I'm waiting here 15 minutes. Is this guy going to take my pump? I get out of the car and I tell him, this is my pump. I've been waiting here. The guy's like, oh, I'm going to move. I'm just leaving. I'm like, okay, dude, or something like that. I'm like, oh, all right. I didn't say, oh, dude, but I was like, he was grinning, so I was like, all right, as long as you're going to leave. As soon as I say that, he taps the gas and rams his truck into my chest. Like he rammed a truck into my chest. A person. A person. I'm like, what? I go around his car. I'm like, you just ran your truck into me. What's up? I'm like, so you just ran your truck into me, right? And the guy's like, he's laughing. And then he just leaves the gas station. So I get on the phone, call 911, and I'm behind the guy, and I'm like, I want this guy arrested. I'm going to follow this guy until you arrest him. And they're like, no, I want you to pull over and just stop. Don't follow the guy. So, and told me that, like, but he said it real sternly. So I stopped, and I just waited there. Then I got out of my car and I'm talking on the phone. The guy in the truck saw me calling 911. So what did he do? He pulled back, parked, and he called 911. The cops show up. I tell the cops, look, go in there and say, I'm sure there's video of this. This guy ran me with his truck. You have to arrest him. This is a battery. It's an aggravated battery. He used his car to push me. The cops get there. Number 14 from the Lansing Police Department is the worst one. He yells at me, and he's like, but before that, he's like, well, if the guy apologizes to you, will you let it go with that? And I'm like, he ran me with his truck. I mean, you understand that I'm a person. He used a truck to ram me with. He ran me. He tapped the gas. This guy knew exactly how to tap the gas, so he didn't knock me over or anything. This guy probably does this all the time. How would he know just to tap the gas that little bit, that it would just like make contact with me like that? So anyways, I felt bad for the guy or whatever. These cops didn't want to arrest him. So I'm like, okay, fine, he can come apologize to me. So the guy came apologize to me, and he's laughing the whole time. And I'm like, all right, well, will you at least admit that you ran me with your car? And the officer's like, okay, well, I think we've had enough. You should go now. And I'm like, wait a minute, you're telling me, you're telling him he can come apologize to me, but he's not even acknowledging what he did. The officer's like, they let him go, and then they turn around to me, and they're like, well, what you did was kind of like an assault too. And I'm like, what do you mean? And they're like, well, you went to law school. You should know that by getting in front of his car, telling him that that's your gas pump, that's an assault. I'm like, how is that an assault? They're like, well, he thought you were going to attack him. I'm like, how? By getting in front of his car saying that's my pump after I was waiting 15 minutes for it? He's like, well, in his mind. And I'm like, an assault is if I put him in a reasonable apprehension of an imminent battery. Telling a person that's my gas pump that I've been waiting 15 minutes for by standing in front of your truck, F-150 truck, elevated truck, that's my pump. That is not me putting him in I'm not in an imminent threat of a battery. That's not reasonable. Even if in his head he thought that, which he didn't, because he was laughing when he ran me with the truck and when he came to apologize. But even if he thought it in his head, that's not reasonable. For someone to say, hey, this is my pump for you to use your truck to ram me, a person, that's not reasonable. So they start yelling at me, and then I tell them, look, I worked at the mayor's office. I know Chief Sismansky. They're like, oh, they don't matter. We don't care about them. And I'm like, and then they're like, but if you want to file a report, you can. And then I'm like, but that's not what happened. Then the guy in 14 is like, hey, like that, like literally like that to me. And so at that point, I'm like, look, I can't file a complaint on this guy that ran me because these guys are going to arrest me. In their warped head, they think that me telling the guy that's my pump is a battery. And then when I asked for their badge number, they're going to arrest me for that. Let me just get in my car. And then they said, if the prosecutor saw this, he wouldn't charge the guy. And I'm like, I didn't say anything. At that point, I'm like, look, I've worked for a circuit court judge. I've written motions. I've written orders. Let me not say anything. Any prosecutor anywhere in the United States sees somebody gets rammed by a car, is going to do something about that, and they're not going to say it's justified because you said that's my pump. They're like, did you give him any other way to get out? I'm like, any way to get out? All I said was that's my pump. They're trying to make it seem like I'm confining a car. A human being is confining a car. It's just ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. So to them, it's justified that by me saying that's my pump, that's a reasonable. That's somehow reasonably putting him in the position of an imminent battery, giving him the justification to use his car to ram my chest. That's what number 14 of the Lansing Police Department, in his head, it's justified for this man to have rammed me with an F-150 pickup truck because I said that's my pump and that's somehow reasonable. I don't know. So I'm filing a complaint. I hope Internal Affairs sees this and does something about it. Thank you.